Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the RationalInvestor.com's Daily Brief Recap. As you can see, we actually started a bit later this morning because we had an extra long daily brief today. Not only did we have lots and lots to talk about with the broader market, and having lots of fun watching things like January barometers. But I did notice my browser here is stalling a little bit, so getting the screens up here might be a bit of a challenge here this morning. Come on, you can do it, Brave. Come on. And I was loading star maps and stuff, and they were just totally messing around with my memory. But anyway, that's here nor there. So it was kind of funny. We yesterday's daily brief. We have the baby powder report, and that's Julian. And we did a really interesting study on options. And I put out tweets to the effect that we actually had a bet whether S&Ps would close above 325 here. And I was feeling pretty good yesterday. Today, of course, is options expiry, and then mysteriously, things happened around the world that prevented big open interest levels from getting traded to. But also, too, this is a really interesting conversation on what we call the January barometer. And watching how the first day, the first week, the first month of the calendar year plays out. So fascinating market. And, very much like the political world that we're living in. Oh boy, get ready for some wild action here over the next year or so, people. It's going to be an extremely bumpy ride. For the purposes of this conversation, we try to keep it at just a really simple overview of risk on versus risk off, and what are sort of the general trends, and what direction is the tide flowing. U.S. dollar index, which is sort of our hegemony proxy, controls sort of the fate of the world's currencies, pretty much stuck in a massive trading range. Where, through the fall, they always say, they don't call it the fall for nothing. Stock price is weak, all that kind of talk. We had a really weird fall where the bottom actually came in at the very end of September, beginning of October there. And interesting how there's M top here in the US dollar. Keep in mind, if the US dollar is moving up, that's actually a bad sign for growth. So US dollar tops out, M's out, works its way back down to the bottom end of the trading range. Of course, stock market has done nothing but go up since that October pivot. I don't think we really have enough anecdotal evidence to actually say that risk, the market is priced in risk on totally. And, when this thing, if it does decide to W out and work its way back up, that'll be sort of our indication. So I think on balance, we're living in a reflated world. The Fed has basically said they're on the sidelines. And through the political process in the United States, I would imagine that's going to continue. Kind of like we said, January barometer, funny price action around that big open interest on the 325 calls, beg your pardon, on the S&Ps. So was there some funny business? Interesting how, it's a whole vein. And the Duke of Berkey said this morning, I'll just do like a 20-minute political rant. No, that's just asking for trouble. But I wonder how there's so many coincidental things that Congress is getting ready for impeachment trials, and big bombshells are dropped out of different political entities suggesting that maybe the entire Ukraine thing was being driven by one individual in particular, and smoking guns and all that kind of talk. Oh boy. Welcome to this crazy world we live in. Clearly an injection of massive political instability in the Middle East with the U.S. Drone strikes against insurgency leaders. Massive political instability. Crude oil, interestingly enough, this was the last sort of manufactured drone strike against Saudi Arabia oil installations. Interesting how that's exactly the same level the market is traded to. Interesting too to see how the oil stocks themselves didn't really blast to new highs, but when we look at the gold, it's taking off like a rocket. It feels as though, again, sort of risk off kind of conversation. Stock market dumped violently on that news. Oil took off like a rocket, and gold took off like a rocket. And I even put out tweets yesterday saying, are cats and dogs living together? This actually normally shouldn't happen. So, either one is right or one is wrong. I don't know who is right or wrong here. But, as we're working through the beginning of this new year, probably best just to let the dust settle here for the time being. Hopefully, if you did buy oil stocks, you bought off of W's, and some oil names that I have on the books are doing very well, so I'm very comfortable there. And same thing with the gold. Hopefully, if you did buy gold stocks, you're sitting up massively right now. I don't think it's a good idea to chase either of these markets right here. I am still short my bonds through a bond option. We did kind of talk about this recently, that I kind of thought that there should have been some sort of counter trend rally in the bonds. Interesting how we're coming up into this trend line apex here. So we'll see how that plays out. The bond trade is still up, but I'm not really interested in closing that position just yet, just because of this massive higher time frame structure. But you never know, just like the gold, maybe we start ripping higher here on the bonds. But I think I've told you recently, I don't like the sort of tone of the conversation about the bond market of late, with the Fed and the ECB being basically given the green light to inflate the world economies. But we'll see what happens. Only time will tell. I think I've said to you guys recently, like when we talk about the gold market, and again, my browser's really slow here. If gold's rip-roaring bull, why on earth are these gold stocks, and what the heck's Newmont doing here? Did Newmont just fractal out here, and is that a double top breakdown? What's going on with the gold stock indexes themselves? I mean, I thought gold was rip-roaring to new highs. What's going on here? An interesting, Barrick here banging up against Mountain Man levels and getting rejected off of those. You can't see that number there, but well, you can see 61.8, right? So we're down at the bottom of reload zones here. So something's not right about this picture. So be careful on gold. Please don't chase here. Very dangerous. And I gotta tell you, man, I mean, we're living in some pretty screwy markets right now. So me personally, I mean, I'm not taking any new positions on any of this stuff right now. I'm just letting the dust settle. What am I buying? Anytime Brian sees W's, hopefully you guys go, oh yeah, well, that makes sense. So, here's a couple names that are Wing. One name I did actually just go and buy because I really like the WE action here, especially nice little FU against these lows, and then instantly going and Wing again. Another biotech name. So, I mean, it should make sense why I'm in there. I'll add some more if we can dip against these lows here. And then a name that my right-hand man who helps me drive the bus here for your guys' videos, the Duke of Berkey. Hopefully you can see the W's down in here. I've been humming and hawing about this one. I'm trying to get myself in here, but as you can see, it just keeps moving up. Jerks. But there are interesting stocks out there, and hopefully you can see the logic behind these. So those are the kind of names that I'm buying. If we compare that to something like, there is Kevin's little stock, just looks absolutely beautiful. But if we compare it to something like a gold stock, hopefully you guys go, well, hopefully it makes sense why Beamish was in here buying against 78.6s, but can I go and buy this stock now? No, I don't think the answer is yes to that. I mean, it might move higher, it might confirm big weekly W's, whatever, but I can't go and buy that right now. So, my suggestion to you out there is hunt those W's. When those W's come in, they sure are sexy. And they help you frame risk, right? And that's the whole point of technical analysis, trying to help you frame risk. So, Speaking of W's, let's head on over to crypto now. Dun dun dun. Thought it was fascinating looking back at the daily brief video recap that I did for you guys yesterday, and we had this conversation about Mountain Man yesterday. And we also talked about whether this AB equals CD level was actually traded to. And we also talked about how we wanted to start seeing divergences and stuff for us to get excited. So if we actually drilled down to the lower time frame, there was just a wicked cool setup here that we were chatting about in the lounge last night on TRI that came in. You can see the divergence. Hello, little W. So market, we were talking when we did the daily brief yesterday, there's Mountain Man level. Was this going to be the bottom? Well, we really wanted to see some sort of divergence. Turns out there was one more dump, and that actually hit that AB equals CD objective, and that dump came on a divergence, and you can see it. Let's change the color here so you can see this. That divergence came in MACD, and it also was an RSI divergence. And, a concept that we teach in our school program, and really you had to drill down to like the 30-minute to see this was a beautiful railroad tracks. Bang, bang. So in essence, this is a reversal bottom. Notice that these candles, they leave tails inside bars, and then, oh boy, we am. And then notice, big dump. And then this, of course, was that crazy event. Oh my God, what the hell? The Americans are out assassinating people now? And look at that divergence. And look at that beautiful W. Oh my God, and look at how OBV just took off there. So there was a pretty sick little long setup here, but we're looking at like 30-minute charts here, people. So please understand that that is the context of that trade. If we go back out to higher time frames, what you guys should be really sort of focusing in on in these free videos is what's the bigger message here. And we've been sort of working our way lower, and it's been a grind sitting in this trading range. We were wondering whether these lows were going to hold reload zones. And what I actually like seeing here is, hopefully you guys can see, we're actually getting bullish W's coming in on things like RSI and on things like MACD. So we actually have the makings of a bottom and a pivot here. And I guess, like I said, we had Colin on the show today. He does a lot of work in the crypto space, a bunch of names that he's interested in. I guess what we're kind of thinking in the short term, our conclusion out of today was this could very easily be a fractal. And if we do things like the recent counter trend rallies, and do 50% rules, and then if we draw trend lines off of original market structure top, this is what we call a LJ setup, where you want to let the trend line be broken, then hunt the first W on the other side of that. Now we've got indicators starting to come in, giving W's, and here is that potential W in price. So it looks to me, and this is sort of our message out of the daily brief today, was, I think we actually have a pretty simple line in the sand. And you can see that, if we do punch up through the top here, then that's going to W out RSI through 50 lines. Second W, very powerful signal. Bull divs and MACD already came in. You can see the volume impetus is starting to ramp up. I mean, we would like to see some volume on this move, but in essence, a move through, 76.88. It's sloppy, but I think I can see sort of like a head and shoulders pattern here. And the head and shoulders pattern simply says that you're going to draw the distance from the neckline down to the head and just replicate that up top off of the breakout, something like that. So there is 50% rules. In fact, what this probably is, remember we just had Mountain Man. What happens if we do a Mountain Man going that direction? Oh, gee whiz, that fractal lines up nicely with Mountain Man which just so happens to line up perfectly with this original structural fail level. See that? Doink, 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 doink. So I got a sneaky suspicion you might just see a nice little $1,500 rally, 20% move in the corn. But the key is we got to bust through this top. And if we look at sort of lower time frames, what I'm worried about is, you notice this is a big M. And what we've done is we've rallied up into that original M top. And now it's actually incumbent on the market to break out. We've got some good momentum here in MACD. We've got some good buying interest from the green bars, but we want to see follow through here now. So don't just stall out. Now, having said that, and this is this, this trader's life, hopefully you can see there are probably going to be guys that are going to come in and step in on the short side in this reload zone. And I've been talking way too long here today, but this is kind of a fun conversation to have with you guys. So we're at a really important battle point. Reload zones within reload zones, up against necklines of potential head and shoulders. I don't know whether we really need to be a hero and step in front of this. I think it's probably best for most of the public to just simply say, let this market break out. Let the W's happen. And then, if you just want to buy on a stop, I don't really have a problem with that. If we get any kind of inertial push up through here, you're basically risking the head and shoulders, and you're looking for a replication of this head and shoulders pattern right up into this area up here. That looks like to be about somewhere between 9,000 and 9,500 or so. So, interesting developments in the corn. Now, what's really cool, and I've talked to you guys about this repeatedly, is I think that there are a lot of opportunities in crypto. Just like I'm buying W's in stocks, same logic. Here's a couple names. We've talked lots about potential Ethereum double bottoms, and I even said that I think it's a good idea that we just let the double bottom come in. Don't get involved in this fight. Just let the W's confirm, and I think we can make the argument that you've even got a tighter W to work with now. Look at that. Down, up, down. Give me a nice close up here and rock and roll. You can see where the 50% rule is. And for whatever it's worth, on Tuesdays, we have an options club meeting where all we do is talk about trading options. And we have a sort of subgroup that trades deribit options. And this is painting a TRI SOF, or what we like to call the secret options formula trade. And so our deribit arm of our TRI SOF group is trying to get all over this Ethereum long options trade. So there you go. Merry Christmas. As well, there are names that were super popular back, a few months ago. Oh my God, they're mounting. Just be patient. Wait for the test of the lows. Wait for W's. This is versus USD, and I like looking at the coins versus USD. And I like what I'm seeing here. I mean, look at these beautiful W's. Is this a risk worth taking? Remember, technical analysis is to do nothing more than just identify risk windows where you see supply and demand dynamic change. And is it worth our time and effort to step in at certain levels if we see certain type of price action? I got to tell you, people, take a screenshot of this. This will be a really interesting conversation for us to have in a month or two's time. There you go. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa. Hopefully, you look at that as my gift to you. Learn this stuff, people. It works. It's not guaranteed, but hopefully everybody looks at that and goes, holy crap. Okay, I think I'll leave the daily brief recap at that. Have yourselves a great day. It's the weekend, which means, of course, get ready for crypto frivolity. I got a feeling we might have a pretty fun weekend here, everybody. Strap on your seatbelts. All the best, and bye for now.